Hi everybody, it's Jennifer McCreath. It is Sunday, March 9th, 2025, which means it was 35 years ago that I started watching NWA wrestling. Actually 35 and a half, because I was introduced to wrestling in probably 86, and it was the WWF that I was watching. But it was late 89 that a friend got me watching NWA, which was in the process of essentially separating into two entities, where the NWA went one way and the infamous WCW moniker would be created. I can't even remember. I think it might have been a local channel in Toronto at the time, but at 11:30 p.m. NWA Worldwide came on for 1 hour per night. Of course, I was too young to stay up late, so we'd set the VCR, and every morning the next day we would have an hour of these stars that I had read about in magazines but hadn't yet seen on TV. Well, WWF was selling out Maple Leaf Gardens 10 times a year. 16,000 people at least, with Hulk Hogan and Hulkamania running wild. A little bit different for the WCW folks. Of course, Vince McMahon was smart, and he made sure that he had a monopoly on Maple Leaf Gardens, so if any other wrestling company wanted to run Toronto, they would have to find somewhere else to run their shows. Enter the infamous C&E Coliseum, which has been renovated and is still a very active building today, but back then, 1990, it was fairly small and out of the way. There was no subways or buses down that way, I don't think. But little NWA ran 3 shows in Toronto in 1990, and unfortunately I was so young that I was only allowed to go to matinees. I couldn't go to the night shows. So I had to miss these 3 amazing shows. But let's take a quick peek. Right now, we'll go into the archives of results and see what we actually missed. NWA, it was still called NWA, in Toronto. Look at that, June 1990. The reason I do this is because someone on Facebook today posted a picture of this infamous Mark Callous arriving at this arena. Wonder whatever happened to him, folks. But here we are, in a small arena, under 1,000 people. You would get to see The Undertaker taking on local Nick DiCarlo. You got Brian Pillman and Dutch Mantell, Tracy Smothers and Steve Armstrong against, yes, Bobby Eaton and Stan Lane. 3 of the best tag teams of all time. The Midnight Express, the Steiner brothers, and Doom were all there. You also got Junkyard Dog and Arn Anderson. And yes, Lex Luger defeated Ric Flair in a non-title match. That was right after Wrestle War and Capital Combat. Sting had been injured, so Luger turned face. Luger was really hot at this time. The Luger-Flair 90 feud is very, very underrated. A lot of great matches. Unfortunately, I don't believe there's anybody who videotaped this show. June. So we clicked a button, and we had a frozen computer. And we're going to get... They actually did come back, if you can believe it. Where are we here? Come on, Toronto. June. They came back twice in the fall. Aha! Exhibition Place, October 25th. This show not quite as good. We'll go in reverse order. Luger versus Sid. That's a pretty good main event. Unfortunately, the rest of the show, mediocre. Michael Hayes and Jimmy Garvin, the Freebirds, supposed to take on the Rock and Roll Express, but Gibson was out. So Morton and Rich. Tommy Rich was a huge star in the early 80s in Georgia. By then, he'd kind of lost his luster. How about this team, the Master Blasters? I think there was at least 3 or 4 guys that different guys played the role in Master Blasters, and they put on the face paint, kind of Road Warrior ripoff. But one of them, of course, was Kevin Nash. And he went on to have a pretty good career. Mike Rotunda and Tim Horner, how about that? DiCarlo and Morgan, Johnny K9, all Toronto locals. Tom Zink was there. Art Barr, the juicer, who would die very young. Pillman against the Black Scorpion. Now, which Scorpion was that? Probably Al Perez. A rare fight for the Black Scorpion, not against Sting. Barry Horowitz, yeah, kind of a mediocre card there. Nonetheless, it would have been fun to be there. And October, let's see if we can find the third show now. Toronto. I really need to upgrade this computer. It's so fucking old. Just let it search for a minute there. Whoa. We'll get there. Go, 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 go. Ah. 5 weeks later, November 29th. 475 people. That's it. My God, what a show. Norman the Lunatic. Wow. Against Tony Montour. Norman, of course, was a Canadian Stampede wrestler as well. Buddy Landell pinned the Juicer. They seem to like the Juicer. Oh, Mike Rotundo is now Michael Wall Street. Was he back then? I don't think that's right. Brad Armstrong. What a wrestler he was. Pillman again here against the Goon, Wild Bill Irwin. The biggest disappointment was the advertised El Gigante could not get across the border. So my friends and I made a mockery and said that he actually was too afraid to fight Nick DiCarlo. So we ended up getting Tracy Smothers and Nick DiCarlo against Bobby Eaton and Johnny K9. Tracy Smothers. Steve Armstrong didn't show either. So yeah, Stan Lane had already quit. That's what happened there. Jim Cornette will tell you all about that. Bobby Eaton, Stan Lane, and Jim Cornette. The only one that was left was Eaton. Anyways, the next match was supposed to be the Steiners and the Nasty Boys, but we got a single match. Rick Steiner beat Jerry Saggs in a cage. And you got the champ, Sting. Can you see that there? Sting beat Sid Vicious. NWA World Heavyweight Champion. It's just hard to believe that this amount of talent, even with these no-shows, 3 great shows, you got Sting, Flair, Luger, Steiners, Midnights, and they're drawing 475 people. I just can't believe it. Put the camera back on me. The WCW would not come back to Toronto until 1993. And they ran a much better attended house show at what was then called a Sky Dome, but it was not the full Sky Dome. They put a big curtain down the midway part and called it the Sky Tent. They had about 4,000 there. I was there, and Sting and Vader in the main event. Ric Flair had just switched from the WWF, so he was not cleared to wrestle the 90-day non-compete clause, but he gave an interview in ring, which was cool. Who else did we see there? Cactus Jack, Dustin Rhodes, Ron Simmons, Paul Orndorff, Rick Rude. It was just an unbelievable list of talent in 93. And unfortunately, WCW would not come back to Toronto until 99 for 2 shows. One, a Nitro. Famous Nitro, where Bret Hart speared Goldberg with a metal plate. And later in the year, pay-per-view mayhem, Bret Hart wins his first WCW World Heavyweight title. Luckily for me, I got to go to both of those shows as well. So, opportunities lost over the years could have been... I mean, those 90 shows, they weren't that bad. They should not have been selling 470 tickets. If they'd done proper advertising, they could have probably brought in at least 3,000 or 4,000, because that product was really good. If you go and watch Wrestle War 90 or Capital Combat 90, you're going to see 2 amazing pay-per-views. The in-ring quality of the matches from top to bottom, for the most part, are pretty good. And the storylines, they were pretty good as well. It's a sad situation that, I guess, in the early stages, it was just a regional South promotion. Atlanta and Charlotte would have sold out 20,000 seats, but you take these same guys and put them up in Toronto where nobody knows who they are, you're going to get 500. Too bad I missed those shows. It would have been fun, but it is what it is. And but it's just fun to reminisce about the history. And usually I'm talking about things I did or went to, but here's 3 shows I missed that I really wish I could have been at. Hope you enjoyed the video, everyone.